Don't worry. Take your time. Because the first plot was planted back in 1365, 14th century, and back at that time the winery was only called Château au Lafite, not Monsieur Lafite yet, knowing that Lafite comes from the old French word laït, which means the hill. So literally we are supposed to be on a high hill. You need a bit of imagination. From here it looks pretty flat, I know. But then you do a jump in the time and you go to the 18th century, this time with the next big owner, which was called George Smith. So he was a Scottish navigator. He gave his name to the name of the property, and he also helped to make it bigger. For example, he built the tower that you have here. So Scottish architecture back from the 18th century. You have a chapel that we'll see during the tour, which is inside the building. And you have the Château, so the building in the middle of the line, the other way around. It's called Château because this time it's typical from the architecture of Bordeaux, and it's the house of the current owners. So they are called Daniel and Florence Katia. They were quite famous in France back in the 60s because they were ski champions. Nothing to do with the wine actually. And they also created a sportswear brand which is called Go Sport, kind of decathlon, quite famous in France. And they decided to sell everything so as to be able to buy this winery back in 1992. So it's been 33 years. And they have two daughters, Mathilde and Alice. Mathilde created the Bodali brand, so the cosmetic brand, and the spa.
Okay, that's why we see it down there. We know the brand.
Yeah, and so the spa, so the wooden building, it's their daughters, and their other daughter, Alice, decided to create the hotel. So it's different firms, but within the same family. And if we concentrate on the vineyard, you have 8 hectares in one block, divided in 69 hectares of red grapes and 11 of white. For the red, you have Hedonism, and for the white, you have Sauvignon Blanc, Sauvignon Gray. Knowing that you have two different soils, for the red it's mostly the gravels, so the white stones that you have on the surface pretty much everywhere. And for the white, which are located behind the hotel, this time it's more sandy soil on the surface, so it's more fragile. And to avoid compaction of the soils, we are going to use process to do all the vine work. That's why, close to the pond on the left. So I don't have my glasses, but I see something moving. So usually you have the horses there.
Yeah, of course.
And we are in organic since 2019, doing that in France. We used to have the label, so we started back in 2016. And we are following the path of biodynamics, so we're having a label because we are not doing every step. But for example, we are doing food therapy, so co-actions with plants, so as to fight against mildew or hydraulic stress. Do you have any questions so far, or is this pretty clear?
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 Okay.
I didn't understand. When was it when it was renamed in Smith, when the navigator to Scotland?
Yes, back in the 18th century.
Okay.
Once you'll be ready, we are going to go downstairs to see the cooperage. And just before we do so, to let you know that in Bordeaux you have 4 different wineries that have their own cooperage, so the barrel making process. You have Château Margaux, Lafite Rothschild, Aubryon, and us. big wineries in Bordeaux, and here it will be the smallest cooperage because we only have one cooper. It will build around 2 barrels a day, so 400, 450 barrels a year, and that will cover 90% of the needs of the winery. The 10% left will be local cooperage that we buy. Like that, we keep an eye on the market, and also we see how our wines are going to react to other barrels. So you can follow me downstairs. And we are going all the way down. Making a barrel. We work with French oak only. When we receive the wood, don't worry. When we receive the wood, it's arriving as a mérin. So the mérin is the piece of wood that you have here on the left with the big stain. The big stain is actually the tannins, so what gives the structure to your wine. And you can imagine that when the tannins, the stain is that big, the tannins will be then too sharp in your wine. So first we do a kind of maturation and dry out. 2 years outside in the forest. After those 2 years, we pick up the wood and we are going to build the dwell in France with the staves. And if you take a look at this table, you have around 30 different staves. And it's the amount of wood that you need to build the 225 liter barrel. And it's also like the pattern that you need to follow. You have thicker ones on the sides, also in the center, and then smaller ones. That way, all the staves are going to go all together without using anything in between. Once you have all those staves, now cooper is going to make a puzzle so as to craft the rose. The rose is what you have just here underneath the chimney. So all the staves put together with 2 first backlooping so as to hold them together. And at that moment you will have the process of toasting, but the first one, so the first heat so as to shape the barrel. So you have the fire in the center. If you want to gather around to take a look, you can. So you have the fire in the center, and then you can spray some water on the sides so as to make the wood flexible. And with the table that you have here, you are going to put it all around the barrel, and we are going to bend the wood like this. That will last for 45 minutes-ish. And once the barrel is shaped, we're going to have the second toasting so as to this time give some flavors to the wood. So once it's shaped, we are going to use the knife that you have here on the right side. And according to the intensity of the fire and the length of the toasting, you're going to have different flavors. Once again, on the shelf that I have here, you have all the different toasting that exist. You have light, medium minus, medium and medium plus. Each time it depends, as I told you, of the intensity of the fire. The light will be used for white, that will give fresh breads, nuts flavors. Medium minus and medium for red. Medium minus is more on the caramel, the vanilla, and medium is more on the dark chocolate coffee. We can use a little bit of medium plus, mostly for first red wine, and that will be a little bit of spiciness added to the wine. Once the barrel is shaped, toasted, and finished, we are going to keep it twice. So 2 vintages, each time we have a percentage of new oak and a percentage of oak of the farm wine. And then we are going to sell them to smaller wineries or to producers of strong alcohol. It depends. We use them brand new here, twice, and then you sell them. Exactly. We never sell them brand new. Okay. Do you have any other questions for the barrels? Pretty clear everything? Okay. Thank you. Here? That's one of the good reasons to be here. both red and white will have the same beginning, which is first harvesting, first selection during the harvest, second selection sorting table, then the white are directly pressed. We put them into big pneumatic presses, in which you need to imagine a balloon inside, getting bigger, pressing the berries on the sides. So it's a soft and gentle press that usually lasts for 4 hours, so to keep all the fruity flavors. After that, you take your skins and your liquid all together into a stainless steel vat for 24 hours to do what we call the settling, clarify everything. After those 24 hours, you can pull out the liquid, putting it into another stainless steel vat, beginning of the alcoholic fermentation. Change of sugar into alcohol. Usually that will last for 7 to 10 days. Here we do 5 days in the stainless steel and we finish up in the barrel. The fact that we choose to finish up in the barrel is to make the Sauvignon Blanc a bit softer. It's the grape variety that we mainly use for the white, and it can be a little bit acidic if you work only with stainless steel. So by using the barrel, we try to make it softer. So once the fermentation is over here, we are going to start the aging. So for the aging, it's 12 months inside the barrel for the first table white and 10 for the second. Each time you have 50% new oak, 50% alcohol of one wine. And during the aging, we do what we call aging on the lees. So the lees are the sediments which are naturally created by the wood in contact with the wine. All those sediments are going in the bottom of your barrel, and we are going to work with them doing bâtonnage. So the very traditional way to work with them. We put away the cork, we put a big stick in the barrel, and we are going to mix everything together, to blend everything, to work, so as to be sure that the sediments which are in the bottom go back on the top. And like that, we are going to have a lot of flavors and a lot of fructuosity. The 3 first months, we will do like twice a week, and after the 3rd month, we will do once a week. Knowing that here it's a very traditional way with the actual stick, but you have some wineries where you can find the barrel on some rail, and you just need to roll them. And that will be the same idea. After the aging, you do the final racking, so you put away all the sediments, you blend, and you bottle. So you blend the different grape varieties, but also the different age of the wood, the 50% new and 50% old. For both red and white, the blending is after the aging, not before. So during the blending, each time 1 barrel, 1 grape variety. Another one. And after the blending, we do the bottle. Do you have any questions with the white? Pretty clear? You tell me if I'm too fast, or you tell me if you want to. Remain in the wood, and that will help you each year to actually start the alcoholic fermentation. So the longer it will be used, the better it will become. So here, to explain to you a little bit the red, so I told you same beginning as for the white, I just repeat quickly. manual harvesting, first selection during the harvest, second selection sorting table, then third selection, optical selection. We put into a computer the characteristic that we want for our berries. Here we keep small berries and very dark in terms of colors. Like that we are sure all the flavors will be very intense. And then full selection in the table that you have just here. So it has been dismantled, but still, try to imagine. Like it's a manual table this time, so you have 3-5 people around it, and they are going to put away all the berries which are scratched. You keep only the clean berries so as to prevent oxidation. After that, you need to imagine a small bucket just underneath all the berries after being sorted. They will go down in this bucket, and we are going to lift this bucket above the big wooden vats, and we fill them by gravity from the top. So we press the white in the pneumatic presses, but we don't press the red. It's only the filling by gravity that will press them. So when they touch the ground, they will start to scratch, and then with the weight of all the layers, keep scratching. Once the barrel is full, I'm just checking if we see inside. No, go this way, it's going to be better. Like that we are going to be able to see inside the vats. If you want to look inside, you have some of them which are open. The big tube that you have inside the vats, it's our thermoregulation. So you have water in the tube, and you can cool or warm the water so as to thermoregulate the whole vat. So once the vat is full with the berries, we are going to do a cold maceration. The first maceration that we do, like 10 degrees during 5 days, just to make sure that the colors and the flavors will be very strong and intact. After those 5 days, we raise the temperature up to 26-28 degrees, and we start the alcoholic fermentation. To detail it a bit more, the alcoholic fermentation is going to create two parts in your glass. You will have a liquid part on the bottom and a solid part on the top. The solid part, we call it the cap, and in the cap you have pith, skin, and pulp. In the pulp, a lot of flavors, in the pith, a lot of tannins, and in the skins, colors and tannins. Basically, everything which is contained in the cap, you want it to go into your liquid. It's the same idea as the tea bag. Most of the time, in a lot of wineries, you will find what we call pumpings over. You put a big tube here, and you are going to pump the liquid, putting back to the top, making some rotations. Exactly. So when you do only pumpings over, you will do like 3-4 pumpings over each day so as to extract everything. Here we only do one pumping over each day, just to make sure that the temperature is the same in the whole vat. Otherwise, to extract what is contained in the cap, we use those tools. So we do what we call in French pigeage. So those are piges. So you need to imagine two people on the top of the vat taking this stick, and they will break the cap down, pushing it down so as to mix it with the liquid. So it's manual. The stick is already pretty heavy, but they will need to put their own strength as well, like almost jumping on the stick, so as to be sure that it breaks through. Because the cap is very dense. It's not very thick, but it's very dense. They will do 3 to 5 push downs each day on each vat, knowing that one push down lasts for 45 to 20 minutes, and everything during 1 week.
But the barrels are sealable, or how is this?
No, you can take a look. It's open.
It's always open.
It's wide open,
Okay.
and so when you have the cap, it will actually be the cork of your vat. And sometimes they will just put like a small thing on the top just to cover everything.
Okay.
But otherwise, no, it's not closed.
So it's always open, day one until the end. Okay. Because I thought it was...
Only, yes, sometimes yes, you close them, but during the fermentation, when we do the pumpings over and everything, it's always
It's
open.
Okay.
After the week of the fermentation, you are going to keep your cap and your liquid together just to finalize the extraction, and then you close. Like that we are sure that all the aromas will really stay in the vats.
Okay.
So after the week and the small maceration at the end, we pull out the liquid, we're putting it directly into the barrels where we are going to do the malolactic fermentation. It's the change of malic acid into lactic acid. Basically, the malic acid is the green apple, so very strong, very acidic, and the lactic acid is the sweetness of the milk. So it's just to diminish the acidity, and we do that in the barrel. And the cap we are going to take it to pull it out of the vat, and we are going to pull it into those vertical presses that you have on the side, and we are going to extract every last drop that we can from this solid part, so as to create what we call the pressed wine. Very concentrated, even more on the left bank of Bordeaux, where it's mostly Cabernet Sauvignon based, because in the skin of the Cabernet Sauvignon, many tannins and many colors. So here we are going to use very cautiously, and most of the time it will touch only our third wine. It will not go to our second or into the first, because we are afraid it will unbalance everything. And just to give you a comparison, when I was working in Saint-Émilion before, we were using the pressed wine 10 to 15% in our first wine. So you see, when it's Merlot based and when it's Cabernet Sauvignon based, it's not the same. The Cabernet Sauvignon based is most of the time very full-bodied and very short compared to the roundness and the fruitiness of the Merlot. Do you have any questions for the technical part? Or it seems pretty clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask us to do the procedure though, okay? Especially this.
Yeah.
Do not ask us to.
Don't worry, take your time. We're just making sure. With the white, exactly the same with the red, and we paint this part. It's only aesthetical, because like during the aging you will have the evaporation of some wine and you will need to refill from here, and most of the time you can put some drops of wine. So you just paint everything to prevent people to see it's getting dirty.
Much more nice than
Exactly.
just the drops.
It really depends on the winery. You have some that will leave the drops.
What is the how many bottles you produce per year?
Around 300,000 bottles in total.
In total.
Knowing that we will do like 100,000 bottles of the first wine, red, and like 20 of this first white wine, and then it will be like separated between second between second labels and the third, within the 200,000 that's left. And here it's only the first wine, the first red wine. For the second wines and the third, we have another cellar which is in the forest that we have around. So here only first. This part dates back to the 1960s, so not very old but not quite new. The aging will last for 18 months inside the barrel, 16 months for the second wines. Here we have 60% new oak, 40% oak old of one wine. For the second wines, it's 30% new oak, 70% oak old of one wine. And do you know why do we have this? So it's also made in our cooperage. It's very traditional for the Bordeaux barrel, and you will have two use. First, that will help you to grab the barrel when we are rolling them, because it's pretty heavy. And then it's made out of chestnut, and it will have exactly the same use as the roses before in the vineyard. before we planted roses to detect the mildew. Here the chestnut will help us to detect some termites that will want to eat the oak. Then we'll first eat the chestnut, then the oak.
Yeah, so you can detect it.
Exactly. So it's mostly historical. Now we don't have that much of termites and everything, but in case we have this, knowing that the worst enemy of this kind of insect are spiders. So you have some wineries, for example in Burgundy in France and in La Rioja in Spain, that actually reintroduce and protect the spiders so as to fight against this. And if you want, we can cross. And while crossing, yes, we are going to take a look to this part. So in the middle of the barrel, when you have nothing written on, it's part of the 90% that we produce. When you have something written on, for example here Hedonism Bordeaux, it's part of the 10% that we buy. So like that, while crossing, if you want to take a look to that, that can help you to understand the 90 and 10%. And if you look this part in the ones that we produce, you have the tracking of the barrel. So the first word will be the name of the forest that we buy the oak from, so here Troncé. Then you have a number, it's how many barrels were produced before that one. After you have R or B for red or white. Then CH, it's to tell if it will be for a first wine or a second wine. The first wine are always called Château, so CH. And then you have the toasting, for example here, medium plus. So they can keep a tracking of all the barrels that we produce. And like that, if we have one day a wine, for example, here it's Merlot medium plus. And one day during the aging, we see that the medium plus is giving some bad flavors to the Merlot, we will change that. You see like that you can see and really keep a tracking of the barrel, how you produce them and how it's actually working with the wine after during the aging. So we can cross. Because I did not talk about the emblem of the winery. So on the top, the three branches represent the three kids of George Smith. You remember the owner back in the 18th century. Then the half moon represents the harbor of Bordeaux. It's called le Port de la Lune, so the moon harbor, and it was from there that all the wines were shipped back in the time. And it's part of the UNESCO heritage, so that's why it's here also. And then you have the three fleurs-de-lis to represent the first family back in the 14th century. They were called Berry du Bosque, and they had royal blood. And in France, we represent the royalty with lily flowers. Okay, so that's fine. And we can go just here to have the final stop. So here you have the sculpture of one of the ancient owners that we had back in the 19th century, Le Martin du Four du Berger. He was a big man of Bordeaux because he was mayor of Bordeaux, president of the trade chamber, and also one of the men that signed the classification from 1855. So big guy, but it's not what is the most interesting here. That is. So I told you we are 7 meters down below the surface, and this is a real cut of the soil 7 meters down below the surface. It's like the window on the soil. If you need to touch to understand, once again, you're allowed. So it's the gravel soil. So the white stone on the surface, underneath it looks like that. So it's pretty dense. It's pretty poor also in terms of nutriment and water. But you can see that within one kind of soil, you will have different layers of different soil, giving you even more complexities. For example, on the right side, where it's mostly white, it's limestone. and on the other side, where it's brownish, it's clay. So within the gravels, you will have clay and limestone, giving more complexities to your berries. Then the stems which are here, they are here as an example, but the thicker they are, the older they will be. So here, 65, 70 years old, and those kind of stems can actually reach 10 to 15 meters down with their roots. They will need to dig their way down so as to have nutriment and water. Keeping that in mind, the big cavity that you have in the center, all the one on the left and the tiny one on the right side are old roots. So it seems easier to dig through clay, because you have plenty of them, than through limestone, where you only have one or two. They will need to dig their way down as much as they can to have water, nutriment, because when it's raining, on the surface it's only big rocks, so the water will not stick on the surface, you will dig their way down. So that's why the roots will need to do exactly the same. And that's also why, for example, here we keep the vine up to 70 years old. After that, we pull away the plots and we leave it as fallow for like a couple of years to have the regeneration of the soil and the nutriment, but also all the deterioration of your old roots. You try to pull out as much roots as you can when you pull them away, but you can't really dig the 15 meters. So most of the time you still have some roots in the ground. That can be good because that can be like fertilizers for the ground. But if those roots starts to rot, the baby vine that you just planted will rot as well. So that's why each time we try to wait like 2-3 years with nothing, just to make sure that it's almost deteriorates before replanting. And when we replant, we wait 4 years before using the berries into our plantings. So here, for example, we have 6 years with no production in 1 plot, 2 plots, it depends. We have 80 hectares, so we can keep 1 hectare, 2 hectares as fallow. But if you compare, for example, with Pomerol on the other side, where they have an average of 4 or 5 hectares per winery, they will not leave a whole hectare as fallow. They will like redivide a small plots in a plot in smaller plots, for example.
I didn't understand. How many years do you plant one parcel and then leave it to rest? How many years?
2 years.
But before, how many years?
70.
70, okay.
70.
Okay.
But it depends on the winery. You have some wineries that will wait until 40, so pretty young still. Other it will be older than that. And you have a winery just close by, which is called Château. Very nice if you want to try their wines. They have a plot of 250 years old of Malbec. So they are still using it, but like small proportion, 5% maybe in their plantings. Because you don't have a lot of production. The older you will get, the less production you will have. Knowing that the best moment for your vine, according to the balance between production and quality inside the berries, will be 15 to 40 years old. Any other questions?
50 years. Yeah.
So we can go back just here. Be careful, on the top of the stairs you have a small door, so watch your hand and a small step, so watch your hand toe. Just watch your head and a small step. You remember, I know I told you a lot of things, but do you remember the beginning of the tour when I told you that we have an 18th century chapel?
Yes. This is the chapel.
Okay. So it has been renovated, but it's like the oldest space of the building.
Okay. Okay.
And now, tasting.
Oh,
Which is usually the best part.
the best part.
That's the Jackson part of the tour.
Let's do that.
From the family. On the right side table, you will see the change of the label through the years, and on the left side, you'll have the bottles. In the meantime, I prepare the tasting.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, passando de música.
So, to explain to you, you are going to do 4 wines, 2 red and 2 white. Usually we can think that we will start with the white. Here it's the opposite way around. We finish with the white because the white, first, they are a little bit colder in terms of storage temperature and also a little bit more acidic coming from the Sauvignon Blanc. So if you start with a fresher and more acidic wine, the wine will be after, will be very neutral. So that's why here we start with the red. Okay, now we are sure all the red as will have all their flavors.
Happy birthday.
This is our third, the 2 second wines, and this is the first. The main differences will be the complexity. The third will be the easy drinking wine, 55 Merlot, 45 Cabernet Sauvignon, a little bit of pressed wine so as to put some spiciness on it. 2 second wines, daily one but a little bit more complex. It's the same blending but the opposite way around. In Eau de Smith, it's 60 Merlot, 40 Cabernet Sauvignon. And in the Petit Lafite, 60 Cabernet Sauvignon, 40 Merlot. And this is the one that you're trying. We call it Petit Lafite, and you can remember Petit Frère, little brother of the first label, because he has the same amount of Cabernet Sauvignon than the first wine. And in the first wine, you will have the 4 grape variety that we grow here. I'm doing big glasses. If you don't want to drink everything, you don't need to. If you want to, feel free. And if you want to spit, you have 2 spitters on the sides.
Yes, we don't need to spit. Oh, sorry. We don't need to spit.
We're not losers. So the Château Lafite 2017. This time I told you you have a much more complex blending. You have the 4 grape varieties. So 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, 7% Cabernet Franc, and 3% Petit Verdot. So to re-explain all the grape varieties in case you know it, you need it, sorry. Cabernet Sauvignon is going to give you the skeleton of your wine, the tannins, the structure. Merlot and Cabernet Franc are going to give you fruitiness, brownness, and Cabernet Franc, le Gravely So, that will also give you a lot of smokiness. Smokiness, like smokiness, I mean leather, mushroom, undergrowth, those kind of flavors. And the Petit Verdot is always used in small quantity in Bordeaux. Most of the time the left bank, sometimes in Pomerol, the right bank, and it will give a deeper color to your wine and some spiciness. And spiciness, this time I mean like the peppery flavors that you can have sometimes in the wine.
I like it.
Sorry, I missed it now. The percentage of the blend?
60 Cab, Cabernet Sauvignon, 30 Merlot, 7 Cabernet Franc, and 3 Petit Verdot.
Okay. So 60 calories.
In a wine shop, do you know how you make the difference between first and second wine? Just by looking at the labels?
The blue.
No, because if I do...
Not always. Okay. Okay.
What about now?
So it's just a
Maybe
Château,
Château.
Smith, Lafite, the whole.
Exactly.
name.
So when you have Château on the label, each time it's the first wine. No matter what the name of the second label is, as you see, you don't have Château on it. So when you see Château or Grand Cru Classé, part of a classification that only applies to first wine, it's a first wine. So the wine, storage wine, food pairing wine and everything. And if you need to remember one of those two clues, so between Château and Grand Cru Classé, I will advise to remember Château, because all the first wines are Château, but not all the Châteaux are Grand Cru Classé. Not all the wineries are part of a classification.
Okay.
And even without talking about your taste or which one did you prefer, do you see the difference and feel the difference between first and second wine in terms of complexity? The second label white.
Okay.
And after you will try the first label white.
All right.
We are still like giving the same order, first, second, third, fourth.
All right.
So in the Eau de Smith 2021, second label white, remember 10 years in the barrel, 50% Haut Col of one wine, and it's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. So more on the citrus, like lychees, grapefruit, so it's a bit of orange, and a little bit of acidity, but it's well balanced by the use of the barrels. Quick advice, I will pour it, if it were me, I will pour it a little bit colder, and with like for aperitif or something like that. Here it's storage temperature, so for me the white are maybe a little bit too warm, and the red maybe too cold. I'd like to say it's a full-bodied white, even if we don't talk about tannins and anything for the white, but like we'll take a whole month.
Please subscribe to grow this channel. If you like this content, give a thumbs up, share it with your loved ones, and leave a comment. Peace, love, and happiness.